So, in the final episode of the set of Sketchup snippets about the dimension tool, we're going to talk about angled lines, and we're going to talk about radiuses and dimensioning those in a smart way. So, the whole point of doing a dimension is so that somebody reading your drawing can actually make it in the workshop. So there's a few things when you've got an angle that you need to remind yourself of in order to do that correctly. Now, when we're looking at an angle like this, a lot of students who are inexperienced with using SketchUp or inexperienced making things will often just put the dimension tool across the angle like that and then pull out a dimension like that. Now, there's a number of reasons why that isn't correct. And the first reason is that it doesn't help anybody to draw this line and get it in the right position or at the right angle for that matter. So it's a much better, rather than doing this, because this dimension, the size of this is simply a result of drawing a line between this point here and this point here. So what you need actually is to know where this point is and where this point is. The length of that is completely irrelevant. So I will be able to help somebody to draw this if from my reference point I put a dimension on from there to there and put it there because it's in between the smallest and the biggest. The other point that I need to give my theoretical person who's helping me build this is the distance from that point. If you want to, you can just choose that point because it's completely level with it. From there to there. And this time, actually, you pull it out in that direction. So now, if I'm in the workshop and I haven't finished this piece yet, I've got a rectangular piece of wood on the table in front of me, which is 860 by 630, because I've got my maximum dimensions already done, and I've cut my piece. I can now, with a ruler and pencil, I can measure in 553 in this direction. I can measure 249.6 in that direction, and then just put my ruler on and draw a line in between. And then I'll know how to cut. Okay. Now, there's another angle on here, but in this angle, what we have is also a radius here. And first, the way that this would be made in the workshop is that we would cut this across, and then we would draw the line first by doing this same method that I showed you here, and then you would draw on the radius, and then you would sand it down. Now, how to start? I need first to have a shape like this up here, and then afterwards I'm going to put on my radius. So I need to know first where to cut that angle. Now the way you do this is by showing the person where the theoretical lines meet before you do the sanding to get the radius. And you can do that, as I'm doing now, by using the tape measure tool and making some guidelines. Now, when you make guidelines, you create, first of all, a line here and a line here, and where they meet is actually the theoretical place where, when you first cut this line, before you've made the radius, that this edge and this edge is going to meet. And that's obviously where you're going to need to draw a mark initially to create this angle. So you need to dimension to a theoretical point which when in the finished product won't exist. So it's a little bit tricky to understand, but it is a necessary dimension. I'm going to do the same thing here. So now I've got those two guidelines, I can now dimension from this point here to that point there, drag it out here, and you can see it's 200. And I'm also going to dimension from my reference point. Let's just get that visible so we can actually measure from it. From my reference point, now we can take that one. No, we can't. We can take that one there to that point there, and we put that right there. Okay, so now we've dimensioned from there to there. We know okay, I can draw this line on my blank piece of wood, cut it, and afterwards I'm going to put on my radius. So we still, of course, need to dimension that radius. So I'm going to double click to go into edit mode. And then I'm going to, oops, that was not quite correct. I'm going to put on, I'm using the tape measure tool instead of the dimension tool. So now I've got a nice, clear 200mm radius on there, and I just need to click to one side in order to get out of the editing mode. So now I have everything dimensioned so that anybody reading this drawing could make this part without any problem at all. The only thing I'd still would need to add would be the thickness, and I've already told you how to do that. So give this a try. If you've got a radius on a corner somewhere, especially if you've got an angle like this, and it's not just on a square corner like this, that's not such a problem. But if you've got an angle where there's a radius, then you're going to need to dimension it in the way that I just showed you. Okay, that's it for the dimension tool. Please let me know if you have questions. I'll talk to you later.